Why I stopped the Spotify audio-only podcasts. It is going to be okay. Before life, during life, and after life all require human beings to make money in this modern global marketplace. Money is a resource, a tool, and sometimes even considered energy. Once we've reached the conclusion of our lives, one thing we cannot do is bring the accumulated money with us to the grave. Having much time is much more important than having money. As far back as Struble Elementary School in the early 1990s, the staff sometimes allowed us, students, to use the PA system to say announcements like about the buses or about special events. For all those not familiar with my elementary school, in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, a talkback device was used. Whether that be the voice announcements on the elementary school PA system or the talkback device from Home Alone 2, both of these are most likely some sort of inspiration for the late 2010s, early 2020s podcast, internet, radio show hosted by myself. For all of 2019 and all of 2020, I had made a conscious decision to not add the sponsorship monetized feature because I wanted myself and any potential co-hosts or guests to speak as freely and open and unrestricted as possible without our language or speech being censored or taken down. Fortunately and thankfully, I read a page on Spotify where a female podcaster was allowed to use any types of language inside of her podcasts and still be able to keep her podcast channel monetized regardless of whatever came out of her mouth. This encouraged me to add the sponsorship feature for myself in early June of 2021. The first sponsorship ran out for me sometime in March of 2022. Spotify allowed me to start the second sponsorship in late April 2022. After advertising my talkie episode from December 2021 on George Carlin's 7 Dirty Words, or the 7 Dirty Words you can't say on television or media, this, after advertising it, surpassed all of my top songs to be the #1 top episode of all ever episodes on my podcasting channel platform. Thank you, Spotify. The Spotify episode and the highest amount of downloads of all other episodes are in and around a little bit above 900 downloads for Getting Out, the George Carlin episode, #1 spot. Later in this talk, I will tell you what my other talkie episode was in the top 10 that it's reached, which are all with a bunch of 8 songs as well. So here we go. So I advertised the George Carlin episode, and that was monetized at least at one time to earn revenue. And now all of my episodes are unmonetized, and I have stopped. And I have retired from podcasting on Spotify, but I was always under the ambassador ads on Spotify. I was always under the Spotify's ambassador ads on Spotify, which is their lowest possible tier of earnings possible. It never reached whatever the mid-level ads things were about ever. So both of those the first one of ads, the second ads, were all under something called the ambassador ads, which is the lowest possible tier anyone could ever be on, and it never really grew or went outreach to be anything above that for whatever reason. But yeah, the December 2021 episode, George Carlin's 7 Dirty Words, I advertised enough that it surpassed all of the top songs to be the #1 possible episode on all of my podcasts. And I only monetized after seeing that the female podcaster was allowed to make money with whatever came out of what she said out of her own mouth. Alright, I think that's everything I want to say on page 2. Alright. Sometime in February of 2023, Spotify sent me a disconcerting email notifying me that they now required a minimum of 100 listeners to keep the ambassador ads going, which is the only tier I was ever on. It's the lowest possible tier that you could possibly be on. It used to be that they only required 50 listeners for ads to be a thing. 50 listeners and not 100. They upped it to 100 from 50. Between February 2023 and May 2023, they really were messing/screwing around with the listener count, analytic metrics, and always kept the numbers under 100, even when this audience size were in different kinds of hundreds. I don't really know how they calculate all this. But even if I was somehow able to get over 100 listeners for a third sponsorship, I would still be on that ambassador ads, which is the lowest possible tier. And that ambassador ads level is a small amount of money received, and it would not be possible for any possible growth even if I got their ambassador ads again a third time, because again, like as we know, it's the lowest possible level that never grew to the middle part. And therefore would not be worth it in the long run. And there would be no possible growth past the lowest possible tier of their sponsorship levels. And it would just not be worth it in the long run. Some people end their podcasts after only trying to do 3 to 5 episodes. I gave it 4 years, that's right, 4 years, 2019, 2020, and those first 2 years were all for free for fun. And then ads in 21 and 22, and then 23. So 4.5, 3 to 5, a solid 4 to almost 4.5 run years of podcasting, which at the time was I gave it 4 years and over 700 episodes. The Spotify podcasts were my longest commitment to a job outside of working the election polls. Some people only did 3 to 5 episodes to try it out. I gave it 4 years, which is a pretty long time in the great scheme of things. In the great scheme of things, doing 4 years for that was pretty engaging, wild, and a very neat and fun and quite. It was something I really liked doing for 4 years, and it gave me a lot of purpose and path and mission at the time. But all things eventually do come to an end. It is hard to know. It is hard to know or say if I had any co-host or guest where it would make a high amount of downloads. Because when I checked it before closing it out, it looked like about, generally speaking, that with a co-host or guest, there will only be about for the downloads in the teens, or in the 20s, or in the rare case, the 30s of downloads. But for all my top 10 episodes, with 2 talkies and 8 songs that made the top 10, from 80 downloads to over 800 downloads, 900 for George Carlin. All those top 10 episodes were all me, myself, and I. While I like to have guests and co-hosts on, for whatever reason, they would be in the teens and 20s, and in a rare case be in the 30s, but never reach past the 30s of an audience size. So, yeah, I don't really know how Spotify measures all these things, which is really quite bizarre and strange, and that's why I knew that even if I was able to get a 3rd sponsorship, that low-level tier would not be worth it, and even though it was less than the 3rd sponsorship, with the messing around and screwing other numbers, and the way, however, I did it, I'm like, I did a long good 4 years and over 700 episodes. I think it's time to change and move my career and life path into something that doesn't involve the podcasts. But the podcasts were an important part again from February 2019 to May 2023. And I'll say more about the podcast in a bit. But first, I just want to say, yeah, for the top 10 episodes, and some ones under that as well, all were done by me, myself, and I, and for whatever reason, when I have co-hosts and guests and co-hosts, they are only in the teens and 20s, and in a rare case in the 30s of the size actual. So, I like to have other people on, but most people come to hear me speak for the most part. And now, to tell you the talkie that did well in the top 10 outside of the George Carlin one. The non-George Carlin talkie to reach the top 10 episodes is The Dash, the poem by Linda Ellis. The George Carlin episode is like 15 or 16 minutes, and the Dash, the poem by Linda Ellis, is about 2.5 minutes. So you can really put out podcasts and videos that are really well quality-wise, under 20 minutes for both podcasts and videos. You can make something under 20 and still have an effect for people. And then those 2 talk. The highest one, top 1 at 900 some downloads, George Carlin. Oh yes. And then 8 songs, and then the other talkie, The Dash, the poem by Linda Ellis. Giving something to say all to the world with all these. Yeah, so the Spotify podcasts were my longest commitment to a job outside of the election polls. But really, I enjoyed the internet radio shows, podcasting it, and I thank Spotify for giving me that opportunity. I think I have to say more of that in another page. So I am now going to get off of page 3 and get to page 4. And there's only 5 pages, don't worry. It's not too long. I don't regret having the opportunity or experience to be a podcast internet radio show host, but being the product myself, because we're really all the products of all these internet companies, but being the product myself of Spotify for so long has taken a high toll on my mental, financial, and emotional well-being and health. I really did want my podcast to last many more years, but after that February 2023 email, I had a feeling that the podcast would soon have to wrap up one way or another. Tired of being the product myself and not wanting to leave my small audience left hanging, tired of being the product itself and not wanting to leave my small audience listeners hanging, I recorded the series finale last episode on May 3rd, 2023. 3 also happens to be my favorite number. My podcast channel page is up online, but don't expect further episodes anytime soon or if ever. Now the strong focus are on videos on 2 video platforms with my video camcorder and tripod. The poor presentation and lack of enthusiasm, curb your enthusiasm. The poor presentation and lack of enthusiasm would clearly show if I ever continued recording Spotify podcasts, and I don't want to disappoint the audience. So I think it was ultimately the right decision to conclude my podcast journey to conclude my podcasting journey on a high note. YT requires 1K subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time, so that's not happening, at least not anytime soon. If I ever do post on YT, just consider it as a social experiment. And on Rumble, it doesn't earn much money either. But, sometimes the likes and views are appreciated. The best, easiest, free, the best, easiest, free, and smoothest ways you can help. The best, easiest, free, and smoothest ways you can help and support me is to get me to 1,120 subscribers on YT, and to smash the free like button. But also for commenting, for commenting, and share. Same goes for Rumble. Both video platforms. On both video platforms, the best, easiest, free, and smoothest ways to support on both video platforms is to smash the get the subscriber count up and smash that like button, and also make comments and shares. All right, and now we are getting on to the last written page of notes, page 5. Oh, let me see. Wait a sec. What's right here? Maybe I'll leave that part out. A few of my YT videos had made over 100 views, but of course, blank kept blank and gave me blank of that blank. I'm just gonna say it like that. Maybe you can go between the lines for that one. All right, page 5. What a lot of this comes down to is that I don't really have a large support system for my business, even from some family members. If I could, I'd stay out in nature for long periods of time, and not even think about money at all. And this connects back to the beginning of the notes, where I talked about money in the first few lines of this talk here. Connected. Has the end again, go around and connect back to the beginning. If I do have to earn money, it will be done on my own terms and through the use of the internet, online, the web, whatever you want to call it, www.com.net.org. If I do have to earn money, it will be done on my own terms and through the use of the internet, online, World Wide Web, and remotely. I can now work remotely with my laptop and all of my other gear and equipment. Life is too short, and there are so many things I shouldn't be worrying about. Outside of being an internet radio show host on the podcast on Spotify for late 2010s to early 2020s, I strive to be a producer, director, filmmaker. I don't have any editing skills at all, and all of my podcasts and all of my videos are 100% raw, uncut, authentic, genuine, and organic. I will now state a little line of a quote of a Jack London quote, which was featured in Bond 25, which finally was released in America in October of 2021. Jack London quote. And I've said this in the podcast and in a previous video. The proper function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I shall use my time. I'm going to say that Jack London quote from the early 1900s one more time. The proper function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I shall use my time. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Everybody dance and have a good time. Everybody dance and have a good time. This is Millennial Man Motions Entertainment. LLC.